You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. I woke up alone in bed. That wasn't normal. Emily always beat me up by at least an hour, either for a yoga class she'd quit halfway through or some big idea she was chasing that week. I figured maybe she took Jake to school early or just went on one of her walks to think. She did that sometimes, disappeared for a bit. I didn't panic, not at first. My name's Dave. I'm 38, live in North Canton, Ohio, and I run job sites for a local construction firm. I've always been the guy who gets up early, works late, pays the bills, packs the lunches, and keeps the world spinning when everyone else gets tired. Emily, she had other skills, dreaming, spending, starting things she couldn't finish. But I loved her. God help me, I really did. Quick note before we go further. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I noticed the silence when I walked into the kitchen. No coffee, no dishes. Jake's backpack was still by the door. And then I saw the note. It was folded like a receipt and taped to the fridge. One line in her handwriting. I need to follow my dreams. The house is yours now. Emily. I stood there for a good minute, not breathing. I read it again, and again. I waited for it to turn into a joke, for her to walk through the door laughing. But she didn't. I checked our room. Her clothes were gone. Half the closet cleared out. She'd taken her suitcase. Her charger was missing. So was her makeup bag. Jake came down the stairs, rubbing his eyes. I shoved the note in my pocket and tried to smile. Morning, buddy, I said. Mom had to run out early. Want waffles? He nodded. I started cracking eggs like nothing had happened. Even though my hands were shaking so bad, I nearly dropped the bowl. I got him off to school, packed his lunch like always, gave him a kiss on the head, told him I'd see him later. He didn't notice anything was off. I got back home, shut the door behind me, and let my knees hit the floor. I had no idea where she went, no clue what dream she was chasing this time. All I knew was I had a 10-year-old boy upstairs sleeping in a race car bed and no wife. And then I checked our bank account. The balance read $11.49. I tore into her desk drawers, ripped through the kitchen junk pile, hoping maybe she left behind something more than a damn goodbye note. That's when I found the unopened bills, and one of them had her name and mine. Final notice. Loan default. Balance past due. Account joint. I grabbed my keys. Time to talk to the bank. The banker's name was Connie, middle-aged, polite, the kind of woman who spoke in slow, careful words like, I might snap at any second. Honestly, I was close. She clicked around on her monitor while I sat across from her, staring at the ridiculous plastic plant on her desk. Mr. Maddox, she said finally, the loan in question was opened 4 months ago under your joint account. It was approved with co-signature authority. That gives either party access to the funds. I leaned forward. I didn't co-sign anything. Because the account is joint, she said, voice soft. Both parties have full access. This how much? She tapped the keyboard. 15,000. I sat back hard. My stomach dropped. 15? Jesus, for what? She gave a small shrug. The application lists it as a personal loan. There's no detail beyond that. The payments are past due, and we've begun the pre-collections process. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My tongue felt like concrete in my mouth. Emily had taken 15 grand and never said a word. No conversation, no warning. Just signed our future away and vanished. Before we go on, how's your day going, and where are you joining from? I left the bank in a fog, barely remembering how I got home. My hands were shaking when I opened the laptop, pulled up our online banking. The hole was deeper than I thought. There were 3 credit cards, 2 maxed out, 1 close. All of them in our names. Emily had opened one of them just 2 months ago. Amazon charges, flights, hotels, clothing boutiques I'd never heard of. She was playing rich on our name while I was working Saturdays to pay the mortgage. Every charge felt like a punch to the gut. I scrolled through them, jaw tight, heart pounding, until my vision blurred. I slammed the laptop shut and stood up so fast the chair tipped. Jake walked in from the kitchen with a juice box. Dad? I turned around fast, too fast. His eyes widened. Hey, buddy, I said, forcing my voice down. You need something. He sat at the table and sipped slowly. You're mad. I didn't answer. He looked at me, calm as ever. Is this about Mom? My throat tightened. I nodded. She's not coming back, huh? I didn't want to lie. I don't know. Maybe not. Jake sat in silence for a second, then. She always wanted to go places. Like, not just on vacation. She said people weren't meant to stay in one town forever. I rubbed my face, exhausted. Yeah, she said that. Did she leave because of you? He asked. That one hit hard. I crouched in front of him. No, bud. Your mom made choices, and right now, we're just going to focus on taking care of each other. Okay. He nodded slowly. You should tell the bank you didn't know. That made me smile for the first time all day. You think that works? It should, he said. It's not fair. No, it wasn't, but fairness wasn't coming to save us. That night, after Jake went to bed, I opened the laptop again and started printing statements. I needed to see everything in black and white. The full wreckage. She'd drained our savings down to zero, left auto payments running, so they kept pulling from our checking, which was how we dipped into overdraft. She'd withdrawn $500 in cash every other week, starting back in April. Nothing suspicious in amounts, just in motive. That was the part I couldn't get over. Not just the spending, but the way she hid it. The slow, quiet sabotage while I kept showing up, trusting her, building a life around what I thought was real. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing everything she owed. Loan, $15,000. Credit cards, $11,500. Overdraft fees, penalties, bounced payments, another couple grand easy. $28,000 and change. Gone, and now mine. Jake's bedroom door creaked open. He walked out, rubbing his eyes. You're still working. Yeah, just finishing up. He walked over, saw the mess of papers on the table. That looks hard. It is. He climbed into the chair beside me. Can I help? I almost said no, but then I saw the way he looked at the screen, curious, focused, like he wanted to understand. Tell you what, I said. Tomorrow we'll sit down and make a plan. Me and you. Jake grinned. Cool, like a team. Exactly. He went back to bed. I stayed up another hour, putting together a list of every creditor, account, and charge. I didn't know what the plan would be yet, but I knew one thing for damn sure. Emily wasn't going to bury us, not without a fight. The list sat on the table like a threat. A quiet little sheet of paper that might as well have said, "You're screwed, buddy." I looked at it again the next morning while Jake ate cereal across from me, legs swinging under the chair, humming some video game tune like it was just another Saturday. It hit me all at once how bad it really was. Loan, credit cards, zero savings, mortgage due in 2 weeks, and nothing to fall back on. I used to think I was the responsible one, the stable one. Turns out I was just blind. I kept going back in my head, replaying moments I used to shrug off. Emily's random mood swings, her business calls that never led to anything. That one time she asked if she could borrow from our emergency fund and swore she'd pay it back. She never did. And I didn't push it. That was on me. Before we keep going, tell us which country you're watching from in the comments. After lunch, Jake helped me vacuum and fold laundry. He didn't say much, just moved through the house like he sensed something had shifted. Maybe he did. Maybe he always knew more than I gave him credit for. Later that evening, we sat on the couch, some old superhero movie playing in the background. I wasn't watching it. My eyes were on the screen, but my brain was chewing glass. Jake leaned into me. Dad, yeah. Are we going to be okay? I swallowed hard. Yeah, we will. You sure? I nodded. I don't know how yet, but yeah, I promise. He didn't ask anything else, just nodded and curled up under my arm. His trust hit me like a punch to the chest. He believed me, even when I didn't believe myself. After he went to bed, I sat in the kitchen again, alone, staring at the numbers, doing the math, running the clock. I should have seen it coming. That was the part that pissed me off the most. I'd been so focused on keeping things steady that I missed the ground shifting under me. Emily didn't just leave. She torched the whole thing, walked away from a husband who worked double shifts for family dinners, from a kid who worshipped her, from a life she said she wanted. I gripped the edge of the table until my knuckles cracked. How do you do that? How do you look at your own kid, tell him you love him, and then vanish into thin air with a note and a pile of debt? She could have come to me. She could have said, "I'm drowning." I would have fixed it. I would have taken out a second mortgage, sold the damn truck, whatever it took. Instead, she lit a match and left me standing in the smoke. I don't know if I was angrier at her or myself. Probably both. That night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling. I could hear Jake snoring faintly through the wall. The sound grounded me, kept me from spinning out. I didn't have the answers yet. I didn't even know where to start, but I knew what mattered. That kid in the next room. He didn't ask for any of this, and he sure as hell wasn't gonna pay for her mess. I closed my eyes, jaw clenched. Come morning, I'd figure it out, whatever it took. My phone rang while I was doing dishes. Unknown number, no voicemail. I almost ignored it. Then it rang again. Same number. I dried my hands and picked up, bracing myself. Hello? Dave? Her voice hit like a slap. I didn't answer right away. It's me, she said, breathless. I need your help. My jaw clenched. Where the hell are you? A hotel. I'm in Pittsburgh. Why are you calling me now? She sniffled. Things got out of hand. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I leaned against the counter, the sponge still in my hand. What exactly did you mean to do, Emily? Empty the accounts and vanish. Or was that just a bonus? I was scared. Okay, she said, her voice cracking. Steve said it was temporary. He had this business idea, and we thought... I laughed. I couldn't help it. Steve? Who the hell is Steve? We met at this startup mixer a few months ago. He's helping me launch something real, something mine. And it was going fine until the money started running out, and now he's acting weird. And I don't know what to do. Are you high? I asked. You're calling me, the guy you screwed over, to fix your little romantic startup disaster. I didn't screw you over, Dave. I was just trying to build something. With what? Fraudulent loans, joint credit cards, our son's future. Don't say it like that, she said, her voice getting defensive. I didn't know it'd get this bad. I thought we'd hit it big and pay everything back. You didn't think at all, I snapped. You ran. You left a 10-year-old boy wondering why his mom disappeared. You dumped 30 grand in debt on my lap, and now you want help. She went quiet. Before we continue, drop a comment with your city or country. We want to know where you're watching from. I let the silence sit for a second. You made your choice, Emily, I said finally. Live with it. She started to say something else, but I ended the call, blocked the number, set the phone down like it might burn me. I stood there for a long minute, chest tight, breathing hard. Then I heard the soft shuffle of socks behind me. Jake. He leaned against the hallway wall, arms crossed. You were talking to Mom. I rubbed my face. Yeah, just for a minute. Is she okay? She's not in trouble, but she's not coming home. He nodded, too calm. She with someone else. I stared at him. Why do you think that? She left. People don't do that unless there's someone else. That's what Mason said when his dad moved out. I wanted to lie. I couldn't. There's a guy, I said, but that doesn't matter. What matters is me and you. We're solid. Jake nodded again, but the way he looked at me, steady, way too grown for his age, it put something heavy on my chest. I'm fine, Dad, he said. You don't have to act like everything's okay if it's not. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He turned and walked back to his room. I just stood there, hands still resting on the counter, stomach twisted up in a way that had nothing to do with money. The next morning, I was sitting at the table with my head in my hands, ignoring a cold cup of coffee and a stack of past due notices. Jake sat across from me, tapping away on his little school laptop like it was no big deal. He glanced up. So, what if we go to the bank and tell them she used the money without your permission? I sighed. We can't, bud. It's a joint account. That means it legally counts as both of ours. But you didn't know about it. They don't care. He thought for a second. That's dumb. Yeah, I muttered. It is. He kept typing, quiet for a while. I figured he was doing schoolwork. Then he said, what if we trace where the money went? I looked up. What do you mean? Like, see what she spent it on. You said she used our account, right? So there's a record. I already looked at the charges. But what if it's connected to stuff we can track, like her email or shopping accounts? What if there's more than what's on the bank site? I blinked. I hadn't thought of that. Before we go deeper, quick check-in. Comment your city or country, so we know where you're watching from. Jake kept going. She used to buy stuff on my school iPad. I think the password's saved. I could log in. That's not exactly legal, I said, even though I knew I didn't mean it. She stole $30,000 from us, he said. So, Maybe we don't care about legal right now. I stared at him, mouth half open. My 10-year-old was outthinking me. All right, I said. Show me. He grabbed the iPad and started poking around like he'd done this 100 times. In minutes, he had her Amazon account open, then her Gmail, then a travel booking app. How the hell do you know how to do all this? He shrugged. Mom never logged out of anything. We started digging through her order history. A lot of random junk, clothes, electronics, yoga gear. But then we saw something that made me stop. Look at that, I said, pointing. Business startup package, domain hosting, marketing, logo design. That's like $500. We kept going. Another charge to the same company, this time from a different state. Wait, Jake said. That's not even close to here. I pulled out a legal pad and started writing down names, cities, dates. This is it, I muttered. She started something. An actual business. Jake nodded. That's why she needed all the money. Still doesn't make it okay. I know, but now we know where she went, right? Maybe. We weren't there yet, but we were getting close. It felt like we'd kicked open a locked door. Behind it wasn't a solution, not yet. But it was better than spinning in circles. Jake leaned in, scrolling through flight confirmations. Here. She flew to Chicago, then Denver, then booked a car to somewhere in Colorado. This town called Clear Brook. I underlined the name. Good work, man, I said, slapping his shoulder. He smiled a little. Told you we're a team. We spent the next hour putting together a timeline. Jake took notes like he was prepping for a school project, calm and focused. Meanwhile, I watched him and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The house was still a mess. The bills still unpaid. But we had direction now. And for once, I didn't feel completely lost. All right, I said, pushing back from the table. Tomorrow, we start calling around. Jake closed his laptop and nodded. We'll find her, he said. You'll see. The next morning, Jake was already back on his laptop before I even poured my coffee. Kid didn't waste time. Dad, he said, spinning it around to show me the screen. Clearbrook, Colorado, population under 1,000. There's a lodge by the lake, and she's been booking stays there since July. He pointed to a reservation confirmation tied to her email. The last one was just 4 days ago. I leaned in. So, she's still there. Jake nodded. Looks like it. I pulled out my phone and started looking up the town. Small, quiet, way too perfect for someone trying to disappear without a trace. It made sense now. The flights, the charges, the out-of-state business filings. She wasn't just chasing a dream. She was hiding. Quick break before we go deeper. Drop your city or country in the comments so we know who's watching. All right, I said, eyes still on the screen. Let's dig deeper. I started searching her business name. Nothing solid came up. Just a shell of a website with stock photos and a cheesy slogan about healing through holistic energy. Classic Emily nonsense. Then I found a name listed under the business email, Steve Harmon, some generic face in a cheap blazer. Probably the same idiot who told her a yoga retreat was a business plan. I started sending emails. Every contact I could find tied to the website, the lodge, the LLC paperwork. Most bounced back. A few went unanswered. I made a couple calls, same thing. Nobody wanted to talk. I don't know what I expected. An address, a confession. Maybe I just needed someone to acknowledge the chaos she left behind. By that afternoon, I was pacing the kitchen, phone in hand, ready to give up when my inbox dinged. It was a reply from a guy named Tony. He worked maintenance at the lodge. Yeah, she's still here. Cabin 6. Comes and goes with some guy in a blue Jeep. Hope that helps. It was enough. Jake looked up as I closed the laptop. You found her? Yeah, I said, my voice low. We're going. You mean now? Tomorrow morning. Pack warm. Colorado's not like Ohio this time of year. He stood up, already moving toward his room. Should I bring the laptop? I paused. Yeah, might need it. He stopped in the hallway. What are you going to say to her? I exhaled. I don't know yet. And that was the truth. I'd been imagining this moment since the day she left. I thought I'd have some righteous speech ready to go. Some big dramatic line to close the chapter. But now that it was real, all I had was a gnawing pit in my gut. What did I even want? An apology? Closure? Maybe I just needed her to see what she did, to see Jake's face and realize what she threw away. I spent the rest of the night checking directions, making reservations, double-checking the lodge address. It wasn't just about confronting her anymore. It was about showing Jake that we weren't the ones running away. Next morning, I packed the truck. Jake buckled his seatbelt without a word. We pulled out of the driveway before sunrise, both of us staring straight ahead, quiet, locked in. We were going to find her. It was late afternoon when we pulled into the gravel lot beside the lodge. Pines lined the narrow road, and the lake shimmered just behind the cabins, calm and untouched, like none of the world's problems could reach this place. Jake spotted her first. "By the water," he said, pointing through the windshield. There she was, Emily, sitting on a bench in a white sweater, legs crossed, sunglasses on, laughing. Next to her was a guy in his 40s, tanned with that cocky startup guy energy. Steve, no doubt. They had iced coffees in hand, like it was just another vacation, like our lives hadn't been lit on fire. I parked the truck without a word. "Stay here," I said, pushing open the door. Jake didn't answer. I didn't look back. Each step across the gravel crunched louder than the last. Emily turned when she heard it, her smile fading fast. She stood slowly, eyes wide. "Dave," I stopped a few feet away. "Surprised? How did you?" Steve stood, arms up like he was expecting a fight. "Hey man, maybe we talk this out." "Shut your mouth," I snapped, eyes locked on Emily. "You don't get a say in any of this." Emily flinched but didn't move. "Before we go further, real quick, drop your city or country in the comments. I want to know where you're watching from." "You took 30 grand, I said, stepping closer. "Left your kid with a note and disappeared to a damn lake resort." "It's not like that. No. You emptied the savings, maxed out the cards, opened loans in my name. What exactly is it like?" "I didn't think it'd go this far," she said, voice shaky. "We had a plan. Steve and you," I laughed, bitter. "You blew through our future on lattes and dumb logos for a business that doesn't exist." "It does exist," Steve said, stepping in. "We're still building it." I turned on him. "You build anything with your own money, or do you just mooch off wives who walk out on their kids?" He backed off, hands up. "All right, man. I'm not trying to get in the middle." "You are the middle," I growled. "You're the reason she thought this was okay." Emily's voice cracked. "I was miserable, Dave." "You were always working, always tired. I felt invisible." "Then you talk to me," I snapped. "You don't blow up the family. You don't nuke our finances. You don't run." She looked away, jaw tight. Jake's voice came from behind me. "She didn't just run," he said, walking up slowly. "She didn't even say goodbye." Emily's eyes snapped to him. "Jake, baby." "Don't," he said, calm. "You left us with nothing. You made Dad fix everything." She took a step forward. "I was scared." I didn't know what else to do. Jake shook his head. "You just didn't want to be responsible." Emily opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I pulled out a stack of printed statements from my jacket. "This is what you left. Every charge, every lie. You didn't just screw me. You screwed him." She looked down, face pale. Steve muttered, "I'm going to give you guys a minute," and walked off, clearly not built for this kind of fire. Emily stood there frozen. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," she whispered. "But it did," I said. "You want to chase some dream, fine. But don't come crying when it burns down and you've got no one left to bail you out." She nodded slowly. "You're right. Too late for that." Jake turned and walked back toward the truck. I gave her one last look. "You made your bed," I said. "You can lie in it." Then I followed my son. Jake didn't say a word on the drive home. We made it halfway across Kansas before he finally looked up from his notebook and said, "So what happens now?" I kept my eyes on the road. Now, we clean up the mess. The next morning, I walked into the local sheriff's office with a file folder 2 inches thick. Fraud, identity theft, financial abuse. I didn't sugarcoat it. The officer on duty, a guy named Owens, flipped through everything slowly. "This all tied to your wife." "Ex-wife," I corrected. He nodded. "And you didn't authorize any of the loans or accounts." "Nope. She opened them, used my name, maxed them out, and ran." He looked over the statements, the forged forms, the dates, all matching her signature. "All right, I'll write it up." It felt like dropping a cinder block off my chest. The bank was next. I met with a branch manager this time, not Connie. I laid out everything: fraudulent use of joint account, forged signatures, unauthorized transactions. Took a few weeks and more back and forth than I liked, but they finally relented. Given the police report and the documentation, the woman said, sliding papers across the desk. "We're canceling the personal loan in your name." Just like that, 15 grand off my shoulders. But the credit damage, that would take time. Same with the cards, the collections, the endless fallout. Emily didn't get off clean either. She was charged formally. Fraud, forgery, financial misconduct. We got a notice in the mail. The DA had enough to push it forward. She never called, never showed her face. Jake read the court letter over my shoulder. "She gonna go to jail?" "Maybe," I said. "That's up to the judge." He didn't say much after that, just nodded and went back to his room. Before we go on, drop your city or country in the comments so we know where you're listening from. Over the next few weeks, we spent every night at the kitchen table, me with a stack of documents, Jake with his Chromebook. He made a list called Dad's Finance Fix-It Plan. "Step 1, he said, tapping the screen. "No more joint accounts." I smiled. "You got that right." "Step 2, freeze your credit." "I already did it." "Step 3, get a password manager, 'cause yours suck." He wasn't wrong. Jake took it all in stride. He never once complained or broke down. Not even when we had to skip cable, cut back groceries, and put off his birthday trip. He just rolled with it, like he'd been training for this kind of chaos. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me from across the table, studying my face like he was checking for cracks. "You okay, Dad?" he'd ask. "Yeah," I'd lie. "I'm good." Truth was, I was tired, worn down, but I wasn't broken, not anymore. Emily's name came up less and less. The court sent updates, but she stayed silent. Her lawyer emailed once asking if we'd consider mediation. I deleted it without replying. She made her choices. Now she could live with them. Jake kept me moving. Every time I got stuck in my own head, he pulled me back out. "Hey," he said one night while sorting receipts. "You ever think about starting fresh somewhere else?" I looked up. "Like moving?" "Yeah, new state, new job, clean slate." I nodded slowly. "Maybe." We weren't there yet, but the idea didn't scare me anymore. Jake smiled. "Cool, I already made a list of places." Of course he did. I leaned back, watching him work. The kid who just lost his mom watched his world cave in, and somehow ended up stronger than before. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like we were finally standing on solid ground. I opened my laptop and started making a plan. I closed the laptop and looked across the table at Jake. He had his elbows up, chin resting on his hand, watching me with that same calm stare he always had when things got serious. "All right," I said, "you win. We'll look at Colorado." He grinned. "Told you." We didn't move, at least not yet, but something shifted. I picked up extra hours at the company, took on side jobs when I could, nights, weekends, whatever it took. Little by little, we patched things back together. It wasn't perfect. We weren't rich. But the bills were paid, the fridge was full, and for the first time in a long time, the weight on my chest felt manageable. Tonight, the house smelled like frozen pizza and cheap root beer. Jake sat cross-legged on the floor, setting up Monopoly, which he always beat me at. He said it was because I bought everything too fast. He wasn't wrong. Before we finish this story, real quick, drop your city or country in the comments. We're glad you're here. "You want Boardwalk again?" he asked, eyeing me. "Obviously. You always lose with Boardwalk. That's the risk I'm willing to take." He smirked and handed me the little metal car. We played for over an hour. No screens, no drama, just dice, bad deals, and a lot of laughs. Every time I looked at him, how steady he was, how sharp, I felt it again. Gratitude. He could have folded, could have gotten angry, bitter, distant, but he didn't. He stepped up. He grew up. Jake counted his fake cash and said, "You're finally not freaking out all the time." I raised an eyebrow. "Was it that obvious?" "Very." I laughed. "Well, things feel better now." "Because she's gone." "No," I said, "because we're still here." He nodded like he understood them more than I expected. After the game, he packed it all back up and looked at me. "So, if we go somewhere new, it'll just be us." "Yeah," I said, "just us." "That's good." And it was. We didn't need anything else. We had each other. We had a second chance. I shut off the lights, locked the door, and followed him down the hall. Tomorrow, we'd go back to work, back to school, back to real life. But tonight, we'd already won.